Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to be learning about rounding off. Now, each time you are to be rounding off, what should come in mind is a large number, either it being a whole number or a decimal number. So all we're trying to do is to write this number in its shortest form without having to write all the either recurring numbers that come after or any other numbers that make it a longer number. So we're going to be rounding off to, for example, to the nearest significant figures, decimal places, whole numbers, etc. So there are rules to follow when rounding off numbers. So we'll first make an example and then follow those rules. So let's say we have an example of 3,596, and we are to be rounding this number off to the nearest two significant figures. Rounding off to the nearest two significant figures. So the first thing we have to do is to look at the significant figures. And the first significant figure is 3. The second significant figure is 5. So what we do is that we can draw a little line here. Some people draw a circle, some draw a line, whichever way you can do it. And then you look at this number on the right. You check whether this number, let's name it X for now. You check whether it is less than 5, whether it is equal to 5, or whether it is greater than 5. And in a case where this number is less than 5, we do not add 1. We round down. You can say we round down. This says we do not add 1 at all. But now if the number is equal to 5, we round up. Or we add 1. We add 1 to this number. We add 1 to the 5. In the same manner, if the number is greater than 5, we also round up, or we add 1. So these are basically the rules that we're going to be using in rounding off. We can make examples of rounding off to whole numbers, to significant figures, to decimal places. So that says whatever you'll be rounding up to, you just have to know what you're talking about. For example, if you're going to be rounding off to significant figures, you need to know significant figures. Rounding off to decimal places, you need to know what a decimal number is, and whole numbers, etc. So we're going to look into exercises that appear in our material where we are going to be rounding off numbers. So the first one says you should round off these numbers to the nearest whole number, 2 significant figures, as well as 2 decimal places. So let's start with to the nearest whole number. And we'll start with the first one, A, which is 10.98. So in this case, we do realize that the whole number, we're going to be looking at this. This is a decimal point, right? So this is where we draw our line. We look at this number, which is 9, and we do realize that 9 is greater than 5. So what do? We say plus 1. We round up, right? So this will give us the value of 11. Now, whenever you're doing this and you have a decimal number or a decimal point here, as long as you are rounding off the whole numbers, or your answer is going to be appearing on this side of the whole numbers, you do not have to write these numbers that appear after the decimal point. You don't write the numbers that appear after the decimal point, meaning our answer here will be left as 11. Let us move on to the next, where we are supposed to be rounding off to the nearest whole number, which is 13.11. We do the same thing. The whole number here is 13, right? So this is where we draw our line. Then we look at this number that appears right after that, which is 1, and we do realize that 1 is less than 5. So we do not round up, we round down, meaning we do not add any 1. This will give us 13 as it is, right? Now we move on to the next, where we have 0.0742. And to round us to the nearest whole number, we look at the whole number. This is where we draw the line. This is where we draw the line. And this is basically 0. 0 is less than 5, so we do not add anything, meaning our answer will just be 0. Remember, these numbers that are after the decimal point, we do not include in our answer. Let's move on to the fourth one, which is 1.555. In this case, this is where we draw our line. We look at this number and it is 5, meaning we add 1 to this whole number. 1 plus 1 will give us 2. Then we move on to the fifth one. The fifth one being 80.041. This is where we draw our line. This is 0, meaning we round down. This will give us an 80. So we've just rounded all these 5 numbers to the nearest whole number. So we can move on to rounding these numbers to 2 significant figures, or I can just say to 2 significant figures. You can draw a line here and probably draw a line here to 2 significant figures. We'll have A, which is 10.8. Now we look at the significant figures. The first significant figure is 1. The second significant figure is the 0. Now this 0 is significant because it appears between 2 non-zero numbers, which makes it significant, right? So after the second significant figure, this is where we draw our line, and we look at 9. It's greater than 5, so we add 1, meaning our answer 10 times 1 is 11. Our answer is 11. Let's move on to B, where we have 13.11. The first significant figure is 1, the second is 3, so this is where we draw our line. And we look at 1. 1 is less than 5, so we do not add anything to the 13. Now the answer will be 13. We move on to the third one, where we have 0.042. Now, which are the significant figures? These first 2 zeros are not significant because they appear before significant figures. A 0 number is only significant only if it appears between 2 non-zero numbers. So the first significant figure will be 7 and the second will be 4. So this is where we draw our line. Now we look at 2. 2 is less than 5, So in this case, we're not going to be rounding up. Instead, we're going to be rounding down. So this will give us 0.074 as our answer. And then we move on to D, where we have 1.555. The first significant figure is 1, the second is 5. So this is where we draw our line. 5 is, we do realize that this number here is 5, so we're going to be 1 here. This will give us 1.6. Now we do the last one, which is 80.041. And the first significant figure is 8, the second one is 0, because the 0 appears between non-zero numbers, right? Now this is where we draw our line. This is 0, so do not add anything this side. So our answer will be 80. So we've just rounded off the numbers to the nearest significant figures. Now we can move on to rounding them off to 2 decimal places. To 2 decimal places. Now the first number is 10.98. Which one is the first decimal place? That is 9. The second one is 8. Do we have any number that side? No, meaning our answer or our number is going to remain the same. We can now move on to B, which is 13.11. The first decimal place is 1, the second is 1. We don't have any number that side, so our answer will be the same. We can move on to C, but we have 0.0742. The first decimal place is 0, the second decimal place is 7. Now we can look this side. We have the 4, which is less than 5, so we do not add anything. This will be 0.08. We can move on to B, where we have 1.555. The first decimal place is 5, the second is 5, so this is where we draw a line. Now 5 plus, we're going to be adding 1 this side. This will give us this one. We're going to be adding 1 this side, right? Now in this case, we'll be having an answer 1.56. We can do the last one, which is 80.041. The first decimal place is 0, the second is 4. So we can just put our line here, and then 1 is less than 5, so we do not add anything, meaning our answer will remain as 80.04.